Hello, hello. Welcome to Courage Becomes Her, where we connect and share real life stories. I'll talk with women whom I love and I'm inspired by, women who are experiencing life just like you and me. I'm excited for us to gather together and cultivate confidence, courage, and joy in life and work. Hello, friends. Thanks so much for being here today. So I had something else altogether different planned for today's episode, and over the last week, my heart has been moved in a completely different direction. And so I want to keep today's episode really short, but I would like to ask if you'll please stick with me throughout this entire conversation, as I do have a special request of you that I will share momentarily. So cutting to the chase, I have decided to actually pause the Courage Becomes Her podcast. And I want to tell you a little bit about my reasons for doing so, which are twofold, as well as to let you know what you can expect of me in the weeks ahead, as well as what I'd like to ask of you. I know first off that this may come as a surprise to you, especially considering that I recently announced that Courage Becomes Her was having its first birthday or its podiversary, whatever we call it, and that we're also right in the middle of this midlife series. And I want you to know that ultimately it has come as a surprise to me as well. So why am I pausing the podcast? So two reasons. First and foremost, if you listen to episode 39 back on June 6th with Corey, my husband, you'll know that we have been going through the most difficult 2.5 years of our marriage. And I realized last week through a very emotional conversation with my friend and coach, Michelle Cashat, who, just as a side note, joined us on July 28th for a bonus episode where we talked about her new book, A Faith That Will Not Fail. And then she joined me again on August 29th for episode 51, which kicked off our midlife series. I realized through this conversation with her that my tank is just about empty and that I need to, one, refuel, stop and refuel. And two, I need to give the energy that I do have to Corey as well as to my coaching clients. And in order to do those things, that I need to take a break from the podcast. The second reason is that with being a year into the podcast, or a little over a year into the podcast, I need to take some time to assess the podcast and to determine if it is meeting your needs and your desires, as well as my goals and my expectations. And I love how the girls, the Mighty as a Mother girls, I don't have their podcast number right in front of me, but it was in the 40s in our friendship series. Like, they talked about their podcast and how kind of they knew that when it no longer brought them joy, that would kind of be the determiner for them to not continue. And not that that is where I am at, but I need to assess that. And you have heard me preach and coach this through conversations with my clients and friends who have joined us on the podcast, like Aaron in episode 29 from March 28th, and Lisa, episode 28 from March 21st. And I really need to practice what I preach and what I coach others to do. And so I really, need to just do some assessment of the podcast and some just really good looking at all aspects of the podcast. And I know that I could do this assessment while continuing the podcast. Most all other podcasters do assessments while continuing. But because of what I said a moment ago of my first thing of my need to refuel and my need to conserve energy, I'm choosing to not do so. I'm choosing to take a pause while doing that assessment. For those of you who joined episode 43 or listened in on episode 43, when I shared for my birthday back on July 4th, I shared 7 areas where I'm being called to have courage. And this decision to pause the podcast leans heavily on 3 of those 7, and indirectly or to some degree, really all of the 7. And while this decision has been a relatively quick decision, it has definitely not been an easy one. I will tell you candidly that I have been physically sick over it. I have asked for counsel about it, and I have prayed over it. And through all of that, I am confident that it is the right decision, but not because I'm confident in myself, because I'm really not, but because of the courage and the strength that God gives me, has given me, and continues to give me, as well as because of the community that I have in you. I cannot do any of this alone, and that makes me so grateful for this community. The Courage Becomes Her community. You have been and continue to be so supportive of me and of each other, of our guests. And so I'd love to ask you to help me in 3 areas as I kind of move forward with this pause and this assessment. So the first one is, will you please pray for me? And I'd like for you specifically, for those of you who are praying people, praying women, to think of 3 different things. 1, for God to refuel me as only He can. 2, for me to be wise with my time and my energy. And 3, for me to gain clarity about the future of Courage Becomes Her, and just, what God has for us in that. The second thing is, I'd love for you to use this time while Courage Becomes Her is paused to go back and listen to episodes that you haven't listened to, or re-listen to ones that filled your cup. And of course, to share episodes with women in your life. And then the third one is, I need your input on the future of the podcast. I need to be able to assess, not just from my goals, my expectations, but from your needs and your desires as well. So I've created a survey. Of course, the link is in the show notes. And I need. I cannot emphasize that enough. I need your response on that survey. It will only take you about 4 to 7 minutes to complete it. And as a thanks for helping me and providing your input, I'm going to do just a randomly selected giveaway to 4 different people who complete the survey to give you a gift card of thanks on my behalf. So I honestly don't know how long the podcast is going to be paused for. I don't know how long the pause will last. And I'm trying not to force anything to my agenda. And I'm trying to trust that God will make the future and the decisions clear to me. Again, going back to my birthday episode, that is one of the areas where I know this year that I am being called to have courage, is just to trust that outcome and to not force things. So I do promise to update you when there is an update. You know that I am all over social media when there's a new episode out. And for those of you who are email friends with me, that I send out my announcement email about new episodes. So you will definitely be clued in when there is an update. But in the meantime, please pray, please listen and share, and please take the survey. By Monday, October 30th. Again, I will put the link to the survey everywhere. It's in the show notes. It'll be on my podcast page on my website, laurelemory.com. It will be on all of my social medias. It'll be in the announcement email about this episode. So you shouldn't have a hard time finding that survey. But if for some reason you can't find it, please email me, laurel@laurelemory.com, and I will most certainly give you that link. And please know that you are important to me, that I am grateful for you, that you matter. And again, just so grateful. So thanks so much for joining me, and courage becomes you, my friend. What an honor to help you to cultivate confidence, courage, and joy in your life and work. Thank you so much for inviting me to journey with you. I look forward to being back with you next week, where we'll hear another story from a woman whom I love and am inspired by and look forward to learning from.